Today's story is about an angry, spiteful moon. It is from the Tlingit Indians of Alaska. The moon plays an important part in the lives of the Tlingits because most of their food comes from the sea. The moon was considered to be a powerful god to be reckoned with. The Tlingits have a very rich culture and a strong imagination. In today's story, look for the many beautiful examples of Tlingit designs. You will notice the symbol of an eagle perched on the bow of a boat, on the totems, and on the grandmother's house. This design is based on an old Tlingit legend of Eagle Woman who turned herself into an eagle in order to save her children. The design on grandmother's dress is from a spoon, because you see, the Tlingits made beautiful incised spoons out of animal horn. And you will see faces which look like ceremonial masks. In many Indian legends, people are transformed into animals and other beings in order to accomplish their goals. The masks worn in ceremonies which depict these tales are called transformation masks. Look for the moon crest on the moon's house and a whale design on the blankets. In fact, be sure to watch very closely. You'll see designs representing the Northwest Coast Indians throughout the entire story. But apart from the designs, the angry moon may be similar to other stories that you've heard before. Tell me if it is. It's now time to listen to The Tale of the Angry Moon. One very bright summer night, when the moon was full, Lupin and Lapuinsa were walking in the grassy country that surrounded their village. They were good friends. Tonight, the moon was full and especially bright. It almost seemed to be watching them. Lapuinsa laughed and said, "What a funny face the moon has! How ugly it is!" "Be quiet," said Lupin. "It is not good to speak badly about the moon." Suddenly, the field was covered in darkness, and a strange shimmering rainbow appeared from out of the shadows and surrounded Lapuinsa. She was frightened and cried out for Lupin. He stepped toward her, and the rainbow disappeared, and the darkness disappeared, and Lapuinsa disappeared. Lupin was all alone in the bright moonlight. He called and called, but there was no Lapuinsa. He ran to the top of a hill and cried. "The moon has taken her," he thought. As his tears dried, he looked up at the sky and saw a brilliant star right beside the moon. A strange idea came into his mind. "I wonder if I can hit the star." He took out his bow and arrow, and aiming very carefully at the star, shot at the star. The star disappeared. Strangely, his arrow did not come back. Again and again Lupin shot his arrows towards the empty space where the star had been. The arrows never returned. Lupin had been shooting arrows all night. And with the first rays of the morning sun, the line of arrows turned into a ladder leading up to the sky. Without knowing why, Lupin picked some branches from a nearby bush and put them in his hair. And then he began to climb the ladder up into the sky. He was afraid. Powerful winds made the ladder spin around. A sudden rainstorm poured down on him, and the ladder became wet and slippery. He hung on tightly and did not fall. He was still climbing the ladder when night came. Lupin wrapped himself about the ladder and fell asleep. The sunrise of another day shone on Lupin. He had never seen the sun so bright. The heaviness of his head made him reach up to touch it. He put his hand up to find that the branches in his hair had grown into bushes full of big, sweet berries. He was amazed, but he was also very hungry, so he ate the berries and threw away the branches. All day long he climbed above the clouds. At nightfall, he reached the top of the ladder. He was very tired, so he lay down and fell asleep. He was awakened by a small voice.
"Wake up! I am coming for you. Wake up! My grandmother wishes me to bring you to her. She has been watching you climb here from Earth."
Lupin was very surprised. There was a small boy looking at him. And so, Lupin followed the boy over the sky road to the grandmother's house. She was glad to see Lupin and welcomed him. They sat around the fire. The grandmother said,
"It is I who helped you on your way to this country. I could tell you were brave and had great need to come up to the sky."
"I have come to find La Puinsa," Lupin said.
"Yes," said the grandmother. "She has been captured by the moon who lives near here."
They could hear La Puinsa's voice wailing in the distance. Lupin wanted to go to her, but the old grandmother told him to eat first, to regain his strength. She raised her hand 3 times, and each time food appeared. First, a fish appeared. Then, a toasted ear of corn. She raised her hand a 3rd time, and fresh fruit appeared. Lupin ate hungrily and felt refreshed.
"Now, when you go to the house of the moon, you must take 4 things."
The grandmother gave him a pine cone and a fish eye, then a rose and a small stone. He was to use these to help him rescue La Puinsa. Lupin hurried into the land of the moon. The closer he came to the moon's house, the louder La Puinsa's cries became, and he began to run. Now he could see her up on the roof, caught in the smoke hole, with the fire licking at her heels. He quietly ran to the roof so that the moon could not hear him. La Puinsa was so happy to see him, she stopped crying. "Don't stop crying," Lupin whispered. "Cry louder. I don't want the moon to know that you are getting away." So she cried louder as Lupin pulled her from the smoke hole. He put the pine cone in the smoke hole, and it made a crying sound, just like La Puinsa. Hand in hand, they started to run. Then the pine cone stopped crying, and the moon became very angry. He had been tricked. He thundered out of his house, speeding after La Puinsa and Lupin. He rolled much faster than they could run. Lupin turned and threw the fish-eye at him. And where it fell, a large lake appeared. The moon was going so fast he could not stop and rolled into the lake. He was wet and cold as he rolled out of the lake. He had to roll around the lake, but he was fast. He quickly caught up to Lupin and La Puinsa. Lupin threw the rose at the moon, and he became tangled in roses and thorns. As he came through them, he was very angry. He rolled even faster. When Lupin saw the moon behind them, he threw the stone at the moon, and a huge mountain appeared. It was too high for the moon to climb. It just rolled up and down again. Tired and breathless, Lupin and Lapuinsa finally reached the grandmother's house. They were welcomed by the grandmother and the child, and they rested. Then the grandmother said,
"Your ladder is waiting for you. You may return to your home on Earth if you wish."
They said goodbye and started to climb down the ladder, down through the thick, puffy clouds. As they reached the Earth, the sun was setting. The rays of the sun touched the ladder, and it disappeared, leaving a pile of arrows on the ground. The children picked them up and put them in their quiver. Then they joyfully ran home. The people of the village were very happy to see them, and for the rest of their lives, people came from far and near to hear their story about the angry moon. The story is still told in the village today.
Did this story remind you of other stories you've heard before? I'll bet it did. The angry moon may have reminded you of Hansel and Gretel. You see, stories from all over the world can be very similar. In the American Indian tribes, the storytellers were considered very important people because all of the stories have such deep meanings. The Indians respected the storytellers and loved them. Look for Tlingit and other stories of the Northwest Coast Indians. You can find them in your school or public library. Share a story with a friend so our tales will never end.
The preceding program was funded in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The first story, Coyote and Cottontail, is a Navajo Indian legend about trotting coyote and is used as an example of how not to be, because Coyote always tries to cheat to win. The second story, Coyote and the Beaver People, explains why coyotes wear the same kind of fur as the badger.
Navajo Indians are from the southwestern part of the United States, mainly Arizona and New Mexico. They are excellent farmers and artists, well known for their turquoise and silver jewelry and for their weaving. The beauty of their rugs is known all over the world. Our first story is a Navajo legend about our good friend Coyote. Trotting Coyote, as he is called by the Navajo, is used as an example of how not to be. He tries to cheat and trick and always loses in the end. In our second legend, we will see what happens to Coyote when he meets the beaver people. Listen now to the tales of Coyote and Cottontail and Coyote and the beaver people.
One day, Trotting Coyote was sitting on a riverbank. He was very hungry and sad because he had not eaten all day. He had not caught a single cottontail or even a tiny mouse. All of a sudden, a cottontail jumped from the bushes where he was hiding and kicked up a great cloud of sand right in Coyote's face. Coyote ran after the cottontail thinking, what a delicious dinner that Cottontail will make. Coyote was much faster than Cottontail and easily caught him. Just as he was about to take a bite out of the rabbit said,
Stop! Don't eat me.
Coyote was so surprised he almost dropped the rabbit. Rabbits don't talk, he thought. What a strange rabbit. First he jumped from a bush where he could have hidden, and now he's talking. Coyote decided to hear what the rabbit had to say.
You'll be sorry if you eat me,
said the Cottontail.
I have no meat on my bones. Why be in such a hurry? I can't escape from you. You are much too big and strong. I'd like to talk to you for a while, but you are squeezing me too hard.
What do you want to talk about? Said Coyote as he stopped squeezing a little. The Cottontail thought fast. He was trying to think of a way to escape.
Let's talk about people. I know all about people.
I know much more about people than you do, said Coyote, and he squeezed a little harder. The Cottontail said,
You think you know so much about people. Why, I'll bet you think they carry their weapons on their backs.
Coyote said, That's right, on their backs.
And I'll bet you always stay as far away from people as you can. You never really see their weapons. That's why you are wrong. I have seen them carry their weapons in their hands.
Cottontail was trying to keep Coyote's mind off his empty stomach. Coyote was squeezing him tightly again. Cottontail said,
Stop squeezing me so hard, cousin. You have me, and I can't escape. Let's talk for a little while longer. Then you may eat me.
Coyote said, I'll let you talk more about people and their weapons, but make your story very short. Coyote was very annoyed. Cottontail was trying not to show how scared he was. He sure didn't want to be eaten.
Well, cousin,
said Cottontail,
what they do is carry a bow and arrow. They hold a bow up, put the arrow at the bowstring, and pull it as hard as they can. And then the arrow flies to its mark.
Coyote said, No, that's not the way it is. They carry the bow and arrows on their backs, and they shoot from over their shoulders. Cottontail thought to himself,
Here's my chance to escape. Stop holding me so tightly, and I will show you how it's done.
Coyote loosened his grip as Cottontail raised his arms. Then Cottontail jumped to the ground and ran away as fast as he could. Coyote chased the rabbit in and out of the bushes, but he never quite caught him. Then Cottontail kicked a thorny yucca plant right into Coyote's mouth. While Coyote was trying to spit out the yucca needles, Cottontail ran into a small cave in the rocks. Coyote couldn't go in after Cottontail because he was too big, so he pretended he wanted to talk. Cottontail said,
I know you don't really want to talk. You want to eat me.
Coyote said,
If you don't come out, I'm going to smoke you out with cedar bark or sagebrush.
Cottontail said,
Oh, good. Cedar bark and sagebrush are my favorite foods. Then I'll get some pinyon pitch. That will fix you,
said Coyote. Cottontail pretended to be afraid. Coyote piled some rocks in front of the small opening. Then he went to get the pitch. Soon he returned and made a fire and placed the pitch on it. Cottontail pretended to cry.
Oh, please don't blow the smoke on me. I won't be able to breathe.
Coyote blew the smoke into the crack where the rocks were. Cottontail pretended to cough. But he wasn't getting any of the smoke because Coyote was blowing it into the rocks. Cottontail said,
Blow hard so it will be all over.
Coyote got as close to the fire as he could and blew and blew. He could just taste that rabbit. Suddenly, Cottontail pushed the hot rocks. They fell into the fire and Coyote's face. Cottontail jumped past Coyote and escaped. It took Coyote a long time to get the smoke and dirt from his face. He didn't clean his face very well. He was too busy thinking of the dinner he had lost. That's why, to this very day, the coyote has black streaks on his face. On another day, Trotting Coyote was sitting near a little pool, picking flowers and watching some beaver people playing the hoop and pole game. He had not played the hoop and pole game for a long time. Coyote sat down near the beavers and asked them,
What is the prize for getting the pole through the hoop?
A beaver answered,
The loser is skinned by the winner.
Coyote was surprised.
Oh, I wouldn't want to be skinned.
The beavers thought they were rid of Coyote. They continued playing. One of them threw the pole through the hoop as it was moving. He was the winner, so he began skinning the loser. The loser jumped into the water as soon as he was skinned, swam around a little, up and down, in and out, and suddenly grew a new skin. Coyote thought to himself,
Since I have magical powers, I'll bet I could grow a new skin too. I think I'll play with them.
An old beaver warned Coyote not to play. He told him to go and play his own games. Coyote begged the beavers to let him play. After much begging, the beavers said yes. They gave Coyote a pole and began rolling the hoop. Coyote threw the pole and won. He didn't know the beaver people had let him win on purpose.
I knew I would win,
boasted Coyote.
I don't want to skin anyone, but I will play another game.
The old beaver said,
If you lose, you will be skinned, and that can hurt if you're not a beaver. So I think you should stop now.
Coyote said,
I'll just grow a new skin like you beavers do.
They let him play again, and he lost. Coyote suddenly decided that he did not want to be skinned, but it was too late. Coyote yelled and howled and sure made a lot of noise. His skin was finally peeled from him. Coyote ran for the water as soon as they had him peeled. He swam around a little, up and down, in and out, but nothing happened. He got out of the water and jumped in again, swam around a little, up and down, and in and out. Still nothing. He didn't get a new skin. Seeing how upset he was, the beaver people decided to help him. The old beaver said,
Badger has extra skins in his badger hole. Maybe he will give you one. It won't hurt to ask.
Coyote agreed. He didn't care what kind of skin he got, as long as he got something to cover his skinless body. So they all went over to the badger hole, and Coyote went inside. When he finally came out, he was wearing a badger skin. To this day, the badger and the coyote have the same kind of skin.
Storytellers were very important people in all Indian tribes. They were respected for their wisdom, and they were loved. Their stories had such deep meanings. In fact, all of the customs and beliefs of the Indian had a story or legend behind them. There were lessons for everyday living woven into interesting stories. The primary concern of all tribes was to live in harmony with the Great Spirit and all that he created. Go read and enjoy Legends of the American Indian. You can find them in your school or public library. Share a story with a friend so our tales will never end.